Hey guys, and welcome to the finale of my Making Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe a Minecraft series. I'm going to begin with a description of what Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe even is, then move into how I made it, and finally a demo of the game. We'll begin up front here with the display. For those who don't know how Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe works, the board is made up of 9 normal Tic-Tac-Toe boards within a larger Tic-Tac-Toe board. The first player to go will begin by choosing a local board, or one of these small boards to play on. After choosing a board, they can pick a piece within that board to play on. The main gimmick of the game is that player 2 must now play on the board that player 1 sent them to. For example, if player 1 chose to play on the bottom left board and played in the top right position, then player 2 would have to play in the top right board. If player 1 chose to play in the center position, player 2 would have to play in the center board. To win the game, you must win 3 of these small boards in a line. You win the small boards by getting 3 pieces in a line, just like a normal tic-tac-toe. When a player wins a small board, it becomes inactive and shows a large version of their piece, signifying a win on this large board. There are some situations where it is impossible to play on the board you've been sent to. Consider this situation where this board is completely filled in. When this happens, the player that was supposed to play on this board is allowed to play anywhere they want. The same is true for boards that have been won by a player. If you were sent to play in one, you may choose any position on the board to play on instead. Let's look at my implementation of the game. We've been looking at the main display for a little bit here. I also have these 2 little displays on top. The right one shows whether it's X's or O's turn to play. The left one shows what small board is selected at the moment. I'll show a sample turn to demonstrate how this works. If the piece type is an X, and the selected board shows up in the middle, then I'm going to plot an X somewhere in this board. If I choose the top left position, then we can expect an X to get plotted here. And sure enough, we can see that it gets plotted. Now as I described before, the other player would be required to play on the top left board now. I have the control logic remember the last player's move and automatically move which board is to be played in. It also updates the piece type. I have a full series on creating the game logic in the playlist on screen now, but I'll do a quick tour. I have the player area with the game controls here. The inputs are then routed to the back of the display where they begin to actually do things. This mess is in charge of remembering what board the next player should play on. This is the left small display on top of the main display. These inputs then all feed into the display, which uses a coordinate system to determine which piece should light up. Again, I don't want to get too into it here, but I have a more in-depth explanation in my series. Now swinging into the player control area, I'm going to show you all the controls. The first thing is this 9-button panel, which serves 2 main purposes. It's predominantly for selecting a piece to play, but it's also used for selecting a board to play on during the start of the game, and for those invalid sends that I was mentioning earlier. Moving to the other side, we have this button, which toggles the current piece type. You can see how pressing it changes the selected piece display on top of the main display. To the right, we have this lever. I've been calling it the blanking lever, and when activated, it stops pieces from being plotted. This might seem like a bad thing though, as it's a little hard to play the game when you can't see what's happening, but we can still update the selected small board with the 9-button panel. I'll demonstrate this quickly. Normally this lever will not be activated, and pieces will plot as expected. If I have the top right board selected, and it's X's turn, if I hit the top left button, then the top left piece in the top right board should become an X. And sure enough, you can see here that it did. If I turn on the blinking lever though, then if I have the same situation and try to plot an X again, you'll see that nothing gets plotted, and instead only the piece type and the selected board get updated. The last main input is this board win toggle. When pressed, this will instruct the display to mark a large piece of the selected piece type in the selected board. Here I have the center board selected, and the piece type is O, so if I hit the button, it marks a big O in the center board. I have 2 reset inputs as well. When this lever is activated and the switch is pressed, it resets the entire board. I chose to have 2 inputs to make it really hard to accidentally reset the entire board and ruin the game. Alright, now with all that out of the way, I can now play a game. I'm not that great at the game, but I know some basic ideas, so don't roast me too hard in the comments. Alright, so now moving into the live demo of the display. I'm going to be playing against a online Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe board, so I'll have to input the computer's moves wherever it goes. So I'm starting out, and I think I'm going to go in the center spot in the center board. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that I have the right board selected. Here I don't. You see I have the bottom right board selected. I want the center board. I could do that by flipping down the blanking lever, which disconnects the board inputs directly and just allows me to select which board I'm going to do. So by pushing this down, I can now hit the center button, and it should just update this small board on top. You see it did there. It also updated the piece type, and that's just because whenever one of these buttons gets pressed, it'll switch what piece type is being selected. So right now I'm playing in the middle board, and I have an X. So as I said, I want to go in the center here. So I can unselect the blanking lever since now we're in normal play. And I'll hit the center button. And there it goes. So now I gotta put that in my online game as well. And the computer went into the top left. So now I gotta put that move in for it. Alright, and now I have the top right or the top left board selected and it's next, so it's my turn, that's alright. And I gotta decide where I want to go. So I just gotta put that in here. And that updates. And now it should stay to the same board since I selected the top left piece. It should keep on the top left board. And then an O, and that's looking alright. So now I gotta put in that move into the online game. The computer chose the top right spot, so let me put that in. I'll go into the bottom right spot here. So I just gotta select that. Oop, there we go. And now the computer will have to go into this board somewhere. So let me put that into the online game. Computer went here. I'm just gonna do this a bunch more times till something interesting comes up. Alright, so I played out a few more moves here, and the board's gotten a little bit complicated now. Still a lot going on, but I'll come back once one of these boards is looking like it's about to be won, which might be more towards the end game, but basically it's just going to keep going on until something interesting happens. So I just won this board down here. You see I have the 3 X's in a row. So now I gotta mark that. So the first step is to make sure I have the correct piece type and local board selected, or small board selected. And right now I don't. I have this top board selected, but I want this one selected so that I can mark it. So what I have to do is turn on the blanking lever, which again disconnects it so it doesn't plot any pieces and just moves the board. And then I gotta select which board, and since we're looking for this one, we want this button. And it shouldn't plot any pieces and should just update this board up here. And it worked out. It also updated the piece, but as I said before, whenever you touch any of these inputs, it automatically switches the piece type. But that's actually okay here because we want to mark an X. So now we have the X selected, we have the correct board selected. So the only thing left to do is just hit the local board toggle button. What I didn't mention before is that this blanking lever must be on so that you can hit the local board win toggle. And it sort of just has the same reason I have the reset lever and the reset button. You can't accidentally just write a big X on the board since it's not really easily erasable unless you want to go back there and reset latches and stuff, which the average person wouldn't want to do. So it's just easier to have a bit of a redundancy here. So now I'm just going to hit this button. And it should plot a big X down here. And that works out. So remember before though, we had this board selected, so O is going to have to go in this spot next time. So no need to reselect that board, and the blinking lever is still on, which means it won't plot any pieces. So I can reselect that board. And you'll see it'll update and go back to that spot. And there it is. And it updates to an O again, but that's okay because it's O's turn. So now all I have to do is turn off the blanking lever, and the game can resume just as it did before. And the computer decided to go in this spot, it seems, so let me just do that. Alright, I'll get back once more interesting stuff happens. Alright. Basically. Alright, and now O decided to go in the center in this board, which means now they have 3 in a row and they win this one. So I gotta mark that in. And again, right now I have the wrong board selected and the wrong piece type. But if I go over to the blanking lever to turn that on, I can choose this top board. And you'll see this will update. And there it goes. So now I just gotta hit the local board win toggle. And it should mark this as a big O. And there it goes. But remember, O selected this spot is the last one for me to go. So I gotta re-put that in. So blanking lever's still on. Gotta put in the middle board. And it all updates. Just gotta turn off the blanking lever. And now it's my turn to go again. So I feel like I kinda have to take this spot, so I'm gonna do that. And O will probably take this spot, and I'm sort of done out with here, so that'll be a bit tricky for me. I'm gonna choose to go into this center spot of this board. But this creates a bit of an interesting situation where now the next turn, you'll see O is supposed to go in the middle board. But I've already won the middle board. which means O can go anywhere they want that's available on the board, so any of these available boards. So looks like O decided to go up here and win this board, makes sense. But to do that, I'm gonna have to hit the blanking lever, select this board for O, since right now it's pointing to the middle, which is invalid. So now this board's selected, but X is selected up here, and it should be O's turn, so I just gotta hit the XO selector. And that changes it to O. So now if I turn out the blanking lever, I can see O wants to go up here. And fix that here, and now I got 3 O's in a row, so I gotta mark that win, and then I'll be going up here. Alright, and now in my haste to show some of these cool mechanics, I ended up losing badly now. Because now I have to go in this square. But you see, O is about to get 3 of these in a row. So if they win just this piece, they win the entire game. Which means if I lead them to any of these squares that allows them to go anywhere, they'll just win the game. So that means this, I have to go in this square, so this pixel leads to this piece, which is an invalid send, so they'll just go there and win. If I choose this center piece, the same thing happens. They get sent to this middle, and then they can go anywhere they want, so they'll win. If I choose this back piece, they'll just send them to the square that they need to go to anyway, so they'll just win. So that means this top piece is the only available one for me. But I'll put that in. But the problem continues, because once I go here, O is now able to just send me back to that previous spot with this piece, and I'll actually show that move here. So O will go up here, pushing me back into this square. But remember, this move was my only move that didn't instantly lose the game, which means I have 3 moves to choose from, and all of them will lose the game on the next turn. So, nice. So I just pick one of those random spots, it literally doesn't matter. And now this one down here. O will choose this spot, and now they win the game. I'll toggle that in though so you can see the 3 O's in a row. Yep. So now O is 3 in a row, so they win the game. I did not do very well here. But I'm going to blame it on the fact that I was trying to show some cool mechanics off, and definitely not the fact that I'm bad at the game. The last thing I wanted to touch on was some closing thoughts for the series. An important question to ask right about now is it done? Well, I'm finished, but there are definitely more modifications to do. A true move validator that blocks the user from overwriting a piece would be nice. Also, a better board controller that can automatically place these big pieces and allow for partial resets would be sweet. In fact, I have the world download in the description for anyone that wants to play the game or try to add the modifications themselves. You can share what you have in my Discord as well. Another thing was the growth I saw throughout the episodes. I started the series when I was getting like less than 10 views per video, and now if I get less than 10,000, it's below average. I don't really know what else to say besides thank you guys for sticking around, or at the very least checking out what I was working on. I thought that my lack of knowledge at Redstone was both a blessing and a curse. I was free to apply my knowledge of digital logic outside of Minecraft on this project without having to think about the specifics of exactly how to optimize it in-game. This leads to a negative though, where I didn't really have the knowledge to fully optimize the system. I'm still pretty happy with the latency of the system though, so I don't think it too heavily detracted from the final product. Let's move into some more behind-the-scenes thoughts. As a series, this project had some interesting moments. Realizing I was working on a display system for the first 3 episodes that wasn't really going to pan out was not the most fun, but I probably could have transitioned better before the redesign. Another issue I've been having is choosing an audience to communicate towards. Some videos I took a more thorough approach explaining the logic to novices. In some videos I take a more direct approach targeting people with intermediate to advanced knowledge. Either approach would have likely worked fine had I just chosen one and stuck with it. Flipping back and forth though likely detracted from the series for both audiences, so I'm going to need to remember that for future projects. Lastly, would I make another project like this in the future? I don't really have any ideas for another Minecraft Redstone project right now, but if I thought of something that I was motivated to work on, I'd start a series on it. So, in short, yes, but I want to focus on my coil gun and other projects before I get back into Minecraft. Thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my future projects. Man, it's kind of a sad outro. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask below. Until next time.